Welcome back to Andersen Acres. It's a rainy day today, so I thought instead of recording outside, we would talk about yet another rabbit breed. Today I wanted to talk about the American Sable Rabbit. These rabbits are absolutely adorable. I do enjoy them, even though I don't currently own one. They are still very sweet and very beautiful. Now, these guys were bred from the chinchilla rabbit, the purebred chinchillas. So they're very much like a chinchilla. They are medium in length, they have upright ears, they have that more commercial body type. They are traditionally a meat rabbit. They have that rollback fur, which means when you brush their fur backwards, so in the opposite direction of its growth, it'll slowly roll back into position. It doesn't snap back or fly back into position, but it does gently roll back. It's a fairly normal type of fur. They weigh from 7 to 10 pounds, with the females being a little bit heavier than the males on average anyway. There is always a possibility that your males will weigh more just because that's the way rabbits are, but on average, your females should be a little bit heavier. Now, how do they differ from the chinchilla? Well, the chinchilla has chinchilla coloring. The American sable has sable coloring. So their head, ears, feet, back, and the top of their tail are either a sepia color or a really dark sepia color. The rest of the body is tan in color. So think Siamese cats. That's kind of what these guys look like. They do tend to have fairly dark eyes, and their eyes do tend to have a ruby cast to them. They're not red eyes, but they have a bit of a ruby cast. Though not all American Sables will have that ruby cast, it is preferred. So they were originally bred in the 1920s from the chinchilla rabbit. And they flourished for several decades, but in the 1970s they started to decline. They just weren't as popular. But in the 1980s, there was a concerted effort to conserve them because they were actually in danger of extinction. They came very close. So the 1980s was a time of deciding to preserve this breed, and several breeders came together and decided they were going to work on making sure that these lines didn't disappear forever, and they were successful. It is no longer a breed of concern. There are well over 1,000 breeding rabbits in the US, and there are more in other places of the world. So they are no longer considered endangered. They're no longer considered in critical need of conservation. They're actually fairly common. If you go to a large rabbit show, you will likely find the American sable there because they're not as rare as they once were. But we have to thank that those breeders who decided that this breed was not going to die out, because it very nearly did. So it's just a lesson for all of us. If you want to preserve a breed, whether it's a rabbit or a dog or a horse, you have to make a concerted effort to breed high quality animals in that standard. Otherwise, they very well could disappear, just like the American Sable almost did. So, temperament-wise, they're actually generally quite docile. They're easy to have around. Even though they're primarily a meat rabbit, they do make decent pets because they are calm, they are docile. They prefer the company of other rabbits, so generally you shouldn't have just one. That being said, they bond perfectly well to humans. So if you have a pair of American Sables, they're very likely to bond to you just as much as they bond to each other. They really do like humans. So yes, while they do best in pairs or groups, it's totally fine to expect them to bond to you because they will. So they're not anti-human. They just do function better if you have more than one. So my general recommendation is, for most rabbits, you don't get one anyway, but definitely for the American Sable, they do need the company of other rabbits to live their best life. They do best in large groups as well. So yes, you can have a smaller, 2 or 3 of them, but if you do want large groups, they do fantastic. They really enjoy being with their own kind. So a large group is absolutely doable, especially if you like to raise your rabbits colony style. These guys are particularly well suited to that. They make good pets. They bond well to humans, and they are still a valid meat breed. So they fulfill a lot of the requirements that rabbit keepers are looking for. They just might be something that gets overlooked as we all kind of focus on Rexes and New Zealands and Flemishes. Sometimes the American Sable does get overlooked, but they are definitely worth a look and perhaps worth incorporating into your hobby farm. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the American Sable. We'll see you tomorrow.